Morning, everybody. We'll go ahead and give folks another minute or two to join, and then we'll get started. All right. Well, let's go ahead and get started. Um, Welcome, everyone, to our March stakeholder meeting for the Pathways Initiative. Just as a reminder, this is actually the stakeholder meeting that is going to be hosted by the launch committee, which is distinct and separate from the meetings that the row formation board is now hosting. So I just wanted to kind of kick that off from the get-go and acknowledge that these are sort of separate streams and separate lines of business at this point in time. But we're thrilled to have you all and have some updates that we wanted to share with you. So Sarah, if you want to go to the next slide. All right. We're going to talk through, give an update on those formation board meetings that I mentioned, an update on our board selection process, and then an update on several of our work groups that have been working and that we're looking to kick back off. Next slide, please. So the formation board has now hosted two meetings. We had a meeting, our first meeting on February 12th, where we elected officers. We adopted an organizational resolution that included our bylaws and the Form 1023 that we filed with the IRS for nonprofit status. That application has been submitted. So we are technically on our way to becoming a nonprofit. And then we adopted our board selection policy resolution, which formally adopts the board selection policy that we are underway with currently. And then we met again on March 19th, and we adopted a budget and a delegation of authority. So to make sure that we, as the formation board, can continue to execute the necessary contracts for the work that we had identified in our 2026 budget. So that includes the ongoing work from Utilicast and our relationship with Global Impact, our legal support, and directors and officers insurance. So all of those items that we kind of need to keep our business going. Just again, worth reminding everyone that the formation board does not have the authority to enter into any contracts with the CAISO or do any tariff amendments or anything like that. So it's a very limited authority for that formation board, but we wanted to make sure that we took official action to make sure we had the authority that we do need. Any questions at this point about the formation board meetings? We don't have another one scheduled at this point. The one that we know we will need to have is when the formation board meets to adopt a slate of review and adopt, hopefully, a slate of initial board members. So that one is one meeting that we know we're going to need to have. And again, if we need another one, we will provide notice and any materials ahead of time. All right, seeing no questions or comments, Did also want to flag that the Row board now has, well, the Row has a website, rowesternenergy.org, and this is where the Row will be posting all of its documents. So the board meetings, agendas, materials, recordings, meeting notes, those kinds of things will be posted on the Row website. Again, part of the reason why I distinguished this group and this meeting from the Row meeting is that these stakeholder meetings through the Pathways Initiative and from the Launch Committee will continue to be hosted on the WEEB website. But if you are looking for Row documents, they will be on rowesternenergy.org. Next slide, please. Now to provide a quick update on our board selection process. And I think we've talked some about this in previous meetings, but just as a reminder, we've entered into sort of a two-phase process with our executive search firm. The first phase is developing the role specifications for the board. And so the search firm has done some interviews with formation board members, nominating committee members, and a handful of others to get input and draft a set of role specifications for the 5 positions that we will be seating later this year. The nominating committee representatives have now taken that draft role specification document and they are sharing it with their sectors for input. And then we will be going over that feedback and finalizing that document, as well as a search strategy and cadence for sector engagement with the nominating committee next month in April. We then will kick off our board member search. So this is the point at which we will be taking nominations, and the search firm will be starting their evaluation of various candidates and working through the nominating committee to evaluate those candidates and narrow it down to a slate of 5. As a reminder, the nominating committee, we can go to the next slide, please. Nominating committee has 9 sectors, plus the bosser and plus a formation board non-voting representative. For organizations, and one of the things that we had included in our final proposal was that organizations need to choose one sector. So noting that there are lots of organizations that may fit within multiple of these sectors, just given the different business lines. For the purpose of the nominating committee, as well as ultimately the stakeholder representative committee, once the Row is off the ground, organizations are going to need to choose one sector to participate through. So if you have not yet done that, you will need to. The various sector representatives are posted here, and you can find them also on the Pathways Initiative WEEB website as well. Any questions at this point about the board selection process? Just pause for a moment. And we'll take another moment for public comment at the end too. So if you have something that comes up in a little bit. All right, next slide, please. Now we'll jump into our work group updates. And first, if Jim Shetler's on, there he is. Jim, I'll pass it to you to provide an update on our funding.
Sure. Thanks, Kathleen, and good morning, everybody. Real quick update. Revenues that have come in through contributions, about 400,000 have come in so far. We have another 200,000 in invoices that are outstanding in the process of being paid. And then there's another 100 to 200,000 of anticipated revenue coming in. So from contributions, we're still looking good at that $700,000 to $800,000 range. We do have work on grants, and we have one locked in at around 150,000. Another one that we think will be coming in, so we're looking at around 300,000 there. So roughly 1.1 million in revenue for this year through contributions and grants. which should get us through mid to third quarter of this year. The other item is debt financing. As I believe most everybody is aware, we have reached out to the ISO to see if they would be a loan guarantor or a loan that the row would take out to finance the rest of the startup costs in the range of $8 million. The ISO is going through their stakeholder process to allow that to occur. In parallel, Rowe and the ISO have been reaching out to various banks to have dialogue about what a loan structure might look like. We've had a couple of different rounds of conversations with banks and are narrowing down to what a loan structure could be. We don't anticipate and actually have no interest either on the bank side or ours to enter into a loan until we know that the ISO's tariff has been approved to allow them to do the guarantor role, and the revenue stream is there through their tariff to recover the monies for that. That's pretty much the status of financing, unless there's any questions.
Thanks, Jim. All right, next slide. Well, here's a little bit more on the debt financing. This is Jim had covered this, but through the CAISO stakeholder process, comments are due on their draft final proposal on April 2nd. All right, next slide, please. Evie, I'm going to pass it to you for an update on the tariff work group.
Sure. Thanks, Kathleen, and good morning. The tariff working group has been working together for the last 9 months to a year to take a look at the market tariff and look at different ways we could use to delineate authority as between the CAISO and the RO within the tariff as we move forward. And like the governance review committee that came before it, there's a very strong understanding of the challenges in getting this right. It's not simple with this integrated tariff. So at this point, we've paused any further work, and we haven't yet landed on a clear solution on how to do that delineation while we identify and address some of the foundational legal questions that underlie it. And so we have a small group of members of the former Priority Functions and Scope Working Group that are working on these questions together with our counsel, Perkins Coie. And we're also consulting with the CAISO in this process. And the goal ultimately is to make a recommendation for the launch committee's consideration and ultimately for the RO initial board on how best to do the delineation of authority within the market tariff. Any questions? Okay, thanks.
Thanks, Evie. A couple of other work streams. Oh, Jessica, go ahead. Well, you can go ahead when we get you off mute.
Thanks, Kathleen. Sorry, I was a little slow on the trigger.
That's okay.
I just wanted to clarify on this. You guys are envisioning that this will be integrated into the CAISO tariff, correct?
Yeah, I think, Jessica, definitely the market provisions will be in the CAISO tariff, and there will be some way to designate the sole authority for the RO within that tariff. There also could be, and this is still kind of in consideration, a separate governance kind of tariff that would be maintained by the RO, but that's really what we're looking at right now.
Okay, great. Thanks so much.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Jessica. Any other questions? All right. A couple of other work stream updates. The work group that's been working on developing the scope of work for the Office of Public Participation we've developed a draft. We're working through bringing that through to the launch committee. We have a meeting next week with FERC's Office of Public Participation to get their feedback and input and kind of make sure that we're thinking really comprehensively about what that office can and should be doing for the RO, especially here at the beginning. And then we have added a work stream within that work group to think about tribal engagement, recognizing that this is really going to need its own sort of thought process on how we can best engage with tribes, how we can help them figure out how best to engage, recognizing that tribes will also have different sort of business streams and may ultimately participate through different sectors. So we are doing some outreach and some work to figure out how the row can get set up with a meaningful way for engaging with tribes and the various interests that they have as well. And then finally, we have our stakeholder process work group is going to start meeting again. We've just kicked that off, and the goal for this, the several goals for this work group are really building out a detailed process map of the stakeholder process for each of the three stakeholder initiative classifications that we identified in the final proposal, and then developing a transitional process recommendation for the initial board. So just as a reminder, all of the work that we're doing through these work groups are going to result in recommendations that we pass off to the initial board once it is seated for their official adoption or further evaluation or stakeholder process, kind of depending on what those recommendations say and how the initial board feels about it. So recognizing that the stakeholder process is a relatively complicated work stream, we really want to make sure we're getting that group back together and that we're diving in a really detailed way here in the near future. So we're going to start with those who participated through the work group in the past, and build from there. But again, all of these pieces will have, we will bring them to stakeholders for feedback as we develop documents and recommendations. Next slide, please. Our next monthly stakeholder meeting is scheduled for April 24th. Same time, same Zoom. And of course, all of our materials, again, will be posted on the Weave website. And with that, I will pause and see if anybody else has any questions or comments that they would like to share. And I'll give just a minute for people to figure out their hand raise function. All right. Well, seeing none, thank you all again for your interest. We're excited about the progress that we're making, and look forward to seeing you all again in a month. Thanks so much, everybody.